Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Bed Tech Show. We're your hosts, Ben and Ethan. We're excited. We've got a good show for you tonight. To start off, we are going to be talking about Apple. And one of the wild things is allegedly they are going to be getting USB-C. They somewhat confirmed it in a report that they had to based on the European Union mandating. And when asked about it, essentially Apple said, we are going to comply. And that's basically what they said. They're going to be complying with this requirement to put the USB-C port on the iPhone. I think this is a pretty big step and something very un-Apple like.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised Apple said we're gonna do it. We have to. It was like their VP of marketing that confirmed it, and I'm curious to know if he had like the authority to release that information,
Probably
make
not.
make that full confirmation. And it sounded as though he was essentially saying, yeah, we have to, there's no other option. But in my opinion, I feel as though Apple's very strategic. They're very smart. A lot of smart people working there. And I feel as though they would be working on something to outmaneuver this. With that being said, the VP of marketing said it that they're going to be changing this to USB-C, which I'm really happy about. I hate having multiple chargers and like different devices with different charging. Really, it's Apple and then all my other devices. So, I mean, that's a win for everyone who like hates on Apple. That's obviously a criticism that I have with Apple is they monopolize their charging and it's frustrating. So,
Yeah, they've been
it'll be
clinging to
nice.
that Lightning port for years. And I understand like when they went to that port in the beginning, there wasn't really a standard yet. At the time, I know we had micro USB, and that was a really finicky port
Oof.
to begin with.
Yeah, is you never knew if it was going to work or not.
Yeah, and it I mean, I remember having a lot of those ports break just
Yep.
with how flimsy they were.
Yeah.
So at the time, Lightning was pretty nice. It was a very sturdy port. I mean, however, what it does have that USB 2.0 standard, which is very slow data. And now where you've got iPhones that have all of these huge camera sensors and the amount of data that is housed on it, being able to transfer that off through Lightning is just not feasible anymore. So USB-C, definitely a welcome improvement. And I think it's a win for the consumer. I really hope that they don't try and circumvent like you said. I think they're gonna try to, but I hope that they universally adopt USB-C worldwide for all
Yeah,
their
I
products.
I agree. I wouldn't be surprised if Apple backtracks on that confirmation though and has some end result where they aren't doing it. But I agree with you. It's a win. I was talking to my wife about it just now, and she was really excited for it. I shouldn't say she was really excited for it. She was like, "Oh, that's cool. Good. Then we don't have to have multiple chargers." And Apple, they're just always I feel as though the last 5 to 10 years they have been very money hungry in regards to the the amount of things that they charge for and the amount that they charge for them. So we used to get chargers with charger heads. Then we got chargers without charger heads, that like wall plug-in charger head. And now we're not even getting chargers. And they changed the plug-in head to be a USB-C port to a Lightning, and that's so inconvenient. So now you have to buy an adapter charger head. It's just they're constantly trying to make more money because they're a business that has investors. They're trying to be profitable. I understand all of that. I get it, but
Yeah,
as a consumer, it's frustrating.
that kind of has me heated. I mean, I understand, they were talking about going green and reducing e-waste. I think that's a noble cause. And removing that charger does But when they ship with their phones a cable that requires a USB-C, which probably if you had previous gen iPhones, you didn't have that. So requiring you to buy a new charger just creates more e-waste. And so really they're guise of environmental friendliness, not there. They just wanted to make money.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think that's the majority of companies where their business is not surrounding or focused on the environment, right? If they're a tech company and their foundational business is tech and being profitable, then they'll use their noble causes as a front for an excuse to do strategic things to make more profit. At least that's my opinion. Even not for profits, they can be, a little sketchy.
Yes.
So um
And I
speaking
mean,
of
I
which,
think that it's
go ahead.
okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think that's okay. I mean, if you want be in the business to make money, that's great.
Yeah.
If you
100%.
want to be in the business to save the environment, that's great too. I just don't think they should use that guise of trying to be one thing, be politically correct, and then have actions that do something the complete opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. And I understand why. I think you and I both understand why they do it, right? Keep their loyal fan base, and a lot of the fan base, the Apple loyals, they eat it up, right?
Yes.
And they will defend Apple through and through, which I love Apple products, especially their accessories. Um, I'm not the biggest fan of their computers just because it's not in my interest or my field of work. But there are other consumer products that I use on a day to day I love. And so I understand why people are Apple loyalists, but to a fault, right?
Right.
So anyway, with that being said, I'm happy and I hope this stands and we do see the Apple iPhone go to USB-C.
Yeah. I mean, there have been like a few people out there that have gone through the lengths to retrofit a USB-C port onto an iPhone. And I mean, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, the way that it turned out with how some of these other people have done it, it's been pretty cool. And then they went and sold that for hundreds, thousands of more dollars than what they initially paid for it, which just
Wow.
blows my mind. So
Yeah,
the demand for USB-C on an
it's there.
iPhone is there.
Hmm.
And speaking of iPhones, recently one of the newest or one of the first gen iPhones went for $39,000 at auction.
That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up the article here. So 2007 iPhone sells for $39,000 at auction.
Wild.
As the new iPhone 14s was released this month, one of these went up for auction, and the bidding opened at 2,500 from September 30th to October 16th, and then the winner was able to pay for it with the $39,000.
Wow.
That to
Of
me,
all
that's just
things.
insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm nostalgic over old Apple products, and I
Oh,
think they're pretty cool. I don't
yeah.
know that I would pay $39,000
Definitely. Well,
for.
it's relative, right? If I
Yeah,
had a ridiculous amount of money, sure. But
maybe I
even
do.
well, even no, even hold on. Even then, I'm gonna backtrack on that. I'm gonna eat my words on that one. I would never pay 39,000. Even if I was a multi-billionaire, there's some moral compass in me that thinks I can use the 39,000 for other reasons, right? I can literally gift it to someone and they would have a much better use for the most part for the $39,000, right?
Yes,
And I don't know, it's hard for me to swallow the fact that someone paid $39,000 for an old phone that they probably will never use. It's going to sit on a shelf in their office as an item, like dust collecting item.
yep.
Like, this is the
Paperweight.
first iPhone. Oh, cool. Let's see it. Nope, not gonna open the box. Keep it in the wrapping. Let it sit there. Oh, okay. $39,000 just sitting on your shelf, huh?
Yeah. And see, you got to think of it like this was factory sealed in box. If you buy this, do you open it?
I would want to. I would want
I would
to.
want to as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd want that unboxing experience. But the worst would be, you open it and it ends up being a legitimate product. You can't reseal that, and that won't get that value back if it is legitimate. If it's unlegitimate, that's great. I mean, you use eBay buyer protection, you get your money back, great. But
Yeah.
if it turns out being a legitimate product when you open that up, then you're out of luck because
Yeah.
you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
No. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. How much do you trust that? Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, some Apple loyalists are a little too loyal to a fault. Um, so yeah, 39,000, man. I'm just thinking of all the things that could happen. And maybe it's just me, like maybe my nature is I like to help people if I can. And man, if I was, like I said, a multi-billionaire, I like to just go around and hear people with their struggles and then help them with their struggles. And $39,000 can go a long way.
Yeah, it
So
can go a long way. I mean, you could start a business with that.
yeah, yeah.
Right?
Or give gifts to my family, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's selfish, but like, okay, hey, my wife, talk to my wife. Hey, babe, I'm gonna drop $39,000 on this box. What is it? It's the original iPhone. Oh yeah, you gonna open it? Nope. How do you know it's real? I don't know. Trusting some dude? I don't know. It's wild.
Uh, yeah,
So
it's wild. I kind of wish that I would have purchased one of these back in 2007 and just kept it. But
yeah, I have a regret. It's kind of like that. So I'm as you know, I'm big on soccer. Um, and I play soccer still. I have a lot of cleats, and I like to buy unique cleats or special edition cleats.
mhm.
And my wife got me some cleats. They are Nikes, but on the back of them they have the Jordan logo.
Oh,
And if you know who Neymar Jr. is, he's a Brazilian soccer player. It was his like special edition signature cleat with a Jordan logo on the back. And they only made a handful of this type of cleat. And I bought it for the retail price of $250. And I love them. They're one of my favorite cleats, and I wear them. Okay.
mhm.
That's why I said I would open the box, right? I'd
Yeah,
open the box because I like to use the things that I get.
right.
I looked online when I was on vacation the last 2 weeks just to see $7,000 they're selling for.
Oh dear.
$7,000. Yeah. I've got them in my garage all muddied up. I'm like, oh,
Nice.
I wish I would have bought two pairs. Like just what you're saying. Like, I wish I would have bought another pair and just like have them.
Yeah.
Oh, but anyway, you know, maybe we'll buy stuff like that in the future. See special edition. Oh, buy two. We'll buy
By
two.
two. Yeah.
One to
Next time.
use and one to hold on to.
All right. What do you want to talk about next?
Let's talk about Elon. Let's talk about
Aha.
Elon. Let's talk
Elon.
about Twitter, and then we can talk about Tesla right after. I just think Elon's so relevant right now. I'd like to talk about him.
Yes, for sure. So Elon finally takes over Twitter and gets control with the blockbuster deal of $44 billion.
Yeah, was it? I wonder if he
And,
bought the iPhone for $39,000. I wonder if it was him.
it probably could have been, and that wouldn't even been a sneeze for him. So, yeah, one of the interesting things with this buy is there are immediate changes to the company.
Yeah, that was
And
wild. That's crazy.
yeah, some of the top executives were fired. And I know for one, their chief financial officer was also let go from the company. And this is just, he's one of the good things. He's already making changes. I don't know whether these changes are going to be for the better or if they'll have a detriment. However, changes are being made. And he is now the proud owner of Twitter.
Yeah, that's a heavy price. What are your thoughts? You think it's a good thing? You think it's a bad thing? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a good thing. I know that, Twitter in the past has kind of been subjected to censoring. And I know that's been one of Elon's beefs with Twitter. And I think one of the catalysts that sparked his interest in wanting to purchase Twitter in the first place.
Yeah.
So I I think with him being the owner of it can bring some positive change in allowing greater access to media and allowing greater freedom of speech on the platform. I think one of Twitter's best assets is the ability to get news out there for everyone to see at a very quick rate. So
I agree.
I think this definitely has potential to be good. I hope that Elon Musk doesn't overdo it. I
Mhm.
know one of the things with him, he's a very smart person. However, I think he needs a boss. And that's kind of been one of the issues that I've had with him at Tesla is he has some great ideas. However, operationally, Tesla has some major issues that
Mm,
that they're getting through, but at the beginning, I, I think he needs a boss, needs some
interesting.
direction.
He
What are
needs
your
some
thoughts?
direction. That's what you mean by when he needs a boss. He needs
Yeah,
someone to keep him in line and in direction.
yeah,
He is very much a creative, right? I mean, look at all the things that he's built and literally created companies that are changing the world, and it's pretty phenomenal. Um, Rarely do you see individuals as influential as him and as big of dreamer, right? To imagine, I mean, to be someone, imagine that you're going to be able to recycle rockets and then build the first electric cars. I mean, I don't know if technically he's the first electric cars, but truly the
it's the first
first
mainstream
first
electric.
mainstream manufacturer, right?
Yeah,
Where it's worldwide, right? And he truly is a dreamer and he follows through with those dreams, but he's a creative, and I can understand why you say he needs direction, because he's probably always thinking of new ideas, new things to do processes, and new creative innovation, and as a result things get lost along the way or sidetracked, or there's always a new priority, and I can understand that. As for Twitter, I wonder how involved he's going to be, because he already has his hands in so many uh, situations. His hands are full, right? He has
yeah,
Tesla, SpaceX,
boring
Boring
company.
Co. Yeah,
Yeah,
and now he has Twitter. And Twitter is not an easy project. This is
no,
this is a very impactful, influential platform, and I don't know if he's going to hand it off um, to someone that he trusts, or if he's going to be very involved. But I do like his approach where he will allow for more open speech and freedom of speech. I think that's good. And I understand the narrative around false information being spread, but I think similar to the stock market, the consumers will correct or identify false trends or false information, right? Let the public decide for themselves what to believe and what's right and what's wrong. And
let's give the power back to the people.
yeah, yeah, I don't like the idea of censoring based on political views, even if someone is spouting propaganda or lies. Everyone does that. Every
Mhm.
company, every political side, that's what they do. That's what marketing is. That's what
Right,
marketing is. And if you were to believe that a company is not stretching the truth or fudging numbers or trying to manipulate you to be on their side and not putting propaganda out, then you are naive and need to grow up and open your
for
eyes to the
sure.
world. So I think the more information is spread, the better, and people can decide for themselves. That's my personal opinion. And maybe I'm naive in that aspect, but I think it's a good thing that he's taking over. I also think he tries to have an unbiased opinion as much as he can, right? And he's not incredibly passionate on one side or the other, where I feel as though previous executives at Twitter are very passionate on one political side of the spectrum, which I don't like.
Right.
And I think there needs to be someone who can see both sides and have empathy and understanding for both sides. And I think he tries to do that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I like your idea or what you said about, previously Twitter has been seemed a little bit one-sided toward some political opinions. And I think, having someone who is open to both sides definitely will be key in the success of Twitter and helping it to expand and give greater access to media for its users. And
Yeah.
you know, I I may be passionate about one side, have one side opinion, but I definitely do value the other side and those opinions. And I think, when we have access to all opinions, it helps us to be smarter, helps us to evolve, and helps us to really become more efficient as a society and grow.
Yeah.
Without that, we don't grow.
That's a great point. Challenging our own personal opinions and beliefs helps us broaden our perspective, have a better understanding. And at times, we may even change our mind and realize maybe what we are currently doing or believing in isn't the right approach. And you can't challenge your own beliefs and ideas if you're in an echo chamber. And I do like the idea of having, yeah, more conversation, like you said. So we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
I'm excited for the future of Twitter and excited for the future of this and what it holds. So hopefully
Mhm.
things go better
Yeah.
and continue up. So just hopefully he doesn't gut the entire company.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
But hey, maybe we could be the next executive officers of Twitter then.
Maybe if anyone has a contact with Elon, send it our way so we can maybe apply.
Yes. That would be awesome. All right. Speaking of Tesla, one of the things that I found really interesting is that Tesla is now offering a J1772 wall connector for their home charging solution for all Tesla and non-Tesla electric vehicles.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I think this is a very un-Apple like thing to do. We were talking about Apple and how they've been really clinging to that lightning connector. Tesla does have their own proprietary connector for their chargers, for their vehicles. And here they are expanding that and opening up to, I guess, what is more known as the standard connector. I wouldn't say that it's more standard because, there's more Tesla vehicles than there are every other electric vehicle out there. So I would say Tesla's connector is more standard. Nevertheless, this J1722 wall connector is now available and it's on sale on their site for $550, which compared to everything else in this space, I think is pretty comparable. What are your
That's good to
thoughts of
know.
this?
Yeah, so there are a couple things that caught my eye. I think you touched on the first one, which was it's for non-Tesla vehicles as well. Now, I don't own an EV like you do. Uh, well, give me the update. Do you have more than one now?
Yeah, so we've got two electric vehicles. Right now, we've got the Tesla Model 3, which love had that for a couple of years. My wife has a Nissan Leaf that we've got in the interim until her Rivian is delivered. That we just got our delivery date, and it's going to be sometime in 2024. So way in the future.
2024.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Which I mean, so we're kind of late to the pre-order of the R1S. We pre-ordered it in December of 2021, and
Wow.
yeah, just based on our configuration, they said we're looking at somewhere in 2024. And the best window they could give was just that entire year.
Oh my
So
gosh.
so
That's
yeah, we're fully electric. It definitely has its growing pains with being fully electric. However,
uh-huh.
even with those growing pains and being electric, I don't think I could buy a combustion engine again.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Um, I do miss the convenience of just going into the gas station and filling up, but I also like not ever having to go to a gas station and fill up.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
that's true. That's true. It's funny that you say you miss the convenience. It's a convenience, but also not a convenience, right? Because a lot of
mhm.
people complain about it, but I can understand the beauty of just, all right, time to go home. Let's go home, charge the vehicle up as you go to bed, right? And you wake up and you're full tank.
Yeah.
Um, well, full battery, but um that's crazy. Yeah, okay. That's really interesting you say that. Um Now, with that being said, going back to this article, now you have the Tesla and a Leaf. This is great for people who have mixed EVs like your family. And the other thing that caught my eye, so going back to the article, the second thing that caught my eye was you could do dual charging. It said it will share, right? You can have
Yeah.
multiple vehicles charged at once. Can you
Yeah,
do
you
that
can do.
with the current Tesla charger?
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting with the current wall connectors that they have. It allows you to connect both of them to the same circuit.
Okay.
So when you're charging one, both of them will communicate to each other. When one's finished, the other one will disconnect power and then feed power into the other one. So
Oh,
so it's pretty cool. I mean, essentially, you can't, if you're on the same circuit, you can't charge at the same time just
got it.
because it's drawing power from one source. So ideally, if your electrical panel has the room and the capacity for it, you would definitely want to put your wall connectors on separate circuits. That way you could be charging at the same time
Yeah,
and hopefully not overloading your main circuit for your house.
got
But
it.
I mean, even if you got both of them at 60 amps, and you're doing that in the evening, most likely you're not going to be pulling more than, you're not going to overload it, depending on what your main circuit is loaded for or rated for. But yeah, I think this is really cool. I mean, now that they have this would be probably the thing that I would purchase, because you could use this wall connector with your Tesla, because all Teslas do come with the adapter from the uh, J1772 to Tesla. So it would just be easy to connect that in there. Then you could charge your Tesla, no problem. And then if you need to charge any other EV, you've got that option too.
Didn't it say also in the article that it's going to provide more power than the current Tesla charging? I think it said 44 miles
Yeah, so
every hour.
I don't know whether that is more than the current third gen wall connector. I think that is on par with it. I
Oh, got
know
it.
with I have the second gen wall connector because that the third gen came probably about a year after we purchased our Tesla,
Mhm.
and we can get about 44 miles per hour on that, currently running on a 60 amp circuit for
Got it.
that.
Got it.
So I think
Cool.
it's going to be on par, and I think that's really cool for like all non-EVs to be able to get that much um, into them. I mean, right now, since the Nissan Leaf, it has such a small battery, we can just
Mhm.
plug it in with the regular uh, 110 outlet, and it'll charge
That's
overnight.
fine.
Yeah, no problem. But if we had the Rivian, for instance, that thing has a bigger battery pack than the Model 3 and would take definitely longer, because I know our Model 3, if we're just on a 110 outlet, that takes about 3 days to
Ooh,
fully charge if it is just constantly plugged in.
yeah. So
So
you need something bigger, right? With
yes.
Tesla charger in this case.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, no, I
So
think it's really cool. I agree it's the opposite of what Apple does, right? This is opening the door for more than just Tesla owners to use Tesla product. And yeah, it's kind of interesting how that works, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's more consumer focused,
Yeah.
consumer led in this decision.
It's interesting because, for me, if I were Tesla, I would be a little bit on the other spectrum of this. They were really the first ones to make electric vehicles more mainstream, and they have their own proprietary connector. I would just say, hey, we're going to license this connector to everybody, and then everybody can have the Tesla connector. Essentially, get a little money in your pocket for
Yeah.
for that. Um, and for some reason, J1772 is the industry standard. It's not as an efficient plug as what Tesla has, because Tesla's is definitely a lot smaller and can also do high-powered direct current charging through their
Hmm.
supercharger network on that same connector, whereas the J1772 can't do high-powered DC charging, can only do high-powered wall charging at the 240 volt.
Interesting. Yeah, it's curious. I'm curious to know why that decision was made and how that came to be. Right. I'm sure there was some lobbying from non-Tesla companies, and I'm sure there was some relationships, politics involved. Um, yeah, that's usually how it goes.
Yeah, for
When it
sure.
when the industry standard doesn't really make sense why it's the industry standard, that there's movement behind the scenes between head figures, right?
Yes.
So
People that don't have the full story
yeah,
when they make these decisions.
yeah, yeah. Or they have a full pocket full of money.
Yes. Incentive to make the decisions they do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, I think this is really cool. I am excited for the future of electric vehicles. I know the technology has a long way to go. However, I think if it keeps evolving, it'll be it's a good competitor, and I think a good alternative to what everything else is out there, and just another mode of transportation. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think eventually my family will go EV. The one thing that's holding us back is, well, for one, I have a truck with four-wheel drive, and I'm skeptical of truck EVs currently. And so, I mean, for me with a truck, I think I want to I want to give time to the truck EVs before I go into one. And the second thing is, I think there needs to be more infrastructure across the board for the EV
I highly
community.
agree with that.
Yeah,
I
but
I
I
definitely
love. Yeah, but I love EVs. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely don't think our infrastructure can support the amount of electric vehicles that are out there. I mean, if you look at California, for instance, Teslas are everywhere.
They are.
And, this summer they were really complaining that people were charging their Teslas overnight, and it was causing such a strain on the infrastructure
Yeah, the
for,
power grids.
yeah.
Yeah, they were scheduled blackouts where communities didn't have electricity. And I can only imagine your state government pushes for more electrical, but then the infrastructure of your state, which is run by your state government, cannot support the push for more electric.
Exactly.
It's like, all right, what's going on here?
I know.
Um,
I mean,
so
I like the enthusiasm that they're requiring more electric vehicles to be sold and giving incentives for that. However, I think if a government's going to require a type of vehicle, there needs to be infrastructure to back up that requirement
yeah,
when it comes through.
I agree. It's just a example of a poorly planned out uh, incentive or law, whatever it is. I don't know what the exact mandate is, but it's just not obviously planned out, right? The push
Right.
to go green, even across the entire country of the US, the push to go green is really hard right now. And it's more on a consumer level. People need to purchase solar, they need to purchase EVs, or less intake of fossil fuels in some way. But at the same time, there's no plan to build out the infrastructure as fast as they're pushing for consumers to buy these products. So
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is cool. Again, I'm excited for this and hope that infrastructure does catch up with it and technology keeps evolving.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about Sony and Xbox's Activision acquisition?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about Blizzard and Activision, right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
I came
This
across
is
this.
Go
I came
ahead. Go
across
ahead.
this
Sorry.
article last week, and I've been kind of following this story as it's developed. Right now Xbox is looking to acquire Activision as part of their portfolio, and Sony is really trying to fight this.
Yeah.
And I find it really interesting. So I understand why Sony's trying to do this because with Xbox, if they acquire Activision, they will have the rights to essentially make every Activision title an Xbox or PC exclusive and cut Sony out of the deal. And right now, Call of Duty is one of Activision's biggest intellectual property items. And if Sony, Call of Duty is on Sony's platform, if that was taken away, that potentially could be a lot of sales that Sony could be missing out on.
Yeah. I
But
mean, yeah.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry.
With this, it seems, they've made Sony has made the argument that they are going to be losing a lot of business if this deal falls through. And the UK's Competition and Markets Authority is really listening to Sony's whining, essentially. And they are attempting to block this deal. And, reading through this article, Microsoft has kind of been, over the last few years, have been really working to continue to have a relationship with Sony. They've allowed, Minecraft and some other titles to be on Sony's platform. However, I think if Sony gets their way and this deal doesn't go through, I kind of think that Microsoft is going to be really petty and stick it to Sony and make it worse for them than if they were to acquire Activision.
I agree. I agree 100%. I can understand why Sony's doing this, but I honestly feel as though Sony, in my opinion, has little wiggle room, or at least I shouldn't say little wiggle room. I should say, I think Sony, I have little empathy with them in this deal because Sony is so strong in their exclusivity. They're so
Yes,
strong
they
with their
are.
PlayStation exclusives, and they hold tight to them, which to everyone who has a PlayStation, I understand why. Those games are phenomenal. They are some of the best games out there, and I can understand why Sony's grabbing tight a hold of that. But essentially, they're complaining and whining that Microsoft is going to have more exclusives than them. And in my mind, I'm thinking, Sony, you've been playing this game for the last 20 years with
Yes.
exclusives. It's not as though this is going to be a complete domination of the market. You have a significant amount of domination in the market, not domination, but a significant amount of market share. And if you think about like the past generation of consoles, I think only the Xbox 360 outsold the PlayStations. And
yeah, they outsold the PlayStation 3. And I mean, that was a
that's the
good
only
year for
one.
Xbox. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything else has always been PlayStation outselling the Xbox. And so, and on top of it, you are exactly right. Xbox has been more than anything favorable in sharing games and respecting the gaming community of people wanting to play what they want to play and who they want to play it with, right? Cross generation, cross platform gaming, Xbox taking their games to PC, like you said, sharing games with PlayStation that they didn't need to. I'm sorry, I just think this is PlayStation being pretty greedy, and I think
Yes.
they're just scared, even though they've been playing this type of strategy they're the last 20 years. Like I said,
Yeah.
I have little empathy for them, and maybe it's because maybe I'm biased. I am an Xbox guy, although I used to be a PlayStation guy.
Hey,
Um,
I used to be a
but
PlayStation guy too.
yeah, but I don't get angry with PlayStation for holding their exclusive games. I understand that. That's phenomenal. Those games are great. Um, but I am kind of not frustrated, but disappointed in Sony playing this so hard. And when I say playing, no pun intended, but them coming at this deal so hard, to me, I think they're just being greedy. And right. The other
I
thing too is
agree.
right after Microsoft announced this acquisition, Sony acquired Bungie and another
Yeah.
studio, and as though even though it's not as big, sure, and Microsoft also did Bathsheba Games, and so that's another big acquisition. Um, but they're both playing the game of acquiring
Yeah.
independent developers, and I just don't think Sony has a leg to stand on. So it'll
No.
be interesting to see what happens with this case. If this does get blocked, that'll be a massive hit. And I think you're right. I think Xbox will be petty and their relationship with Sony is going to sever. And I don't think Xbox is going to move an inch. They're going to take everything they can and pull it back. And I think in the end, consumers are going to lose.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if this deal doesn't go through, Xbox and Microsoft is going to have $70 billion in cash to play around with. They could easily buy Square Enix. They could buy franchises like Monster Hunter, Grand Theft Auto, Persona, and who knows what else. And that would really hurt Sony more than just this deal with Activision.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And it's from Sony's point of view, right? Like I said, I may be biased from an Xbox perspective, but I always like to look at things at both sides. And from Xbox point of view, to be fair, it is tough going against a giant who has so much cash to just buy exclusivity as opposed to developing it internally, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do have to commend Sony for that. A lot of their exclusive games, which have been, award-winning games, are from their own internal studios. They have purchased studios, right? But they
Right.
haven't had to for all their exclusive games. So I commend them for that. And I can see why they're frustrated with Microsoft just being a cash cow, buying up um, different studios and, potentially pulling in those games and keeping them exclusive. I can see how that's frustrating, right? And I can understand why that's an annoyance. But again, it's hard for me to really empathize with Sony when they've been doing the same thing for the last 20 years.
Yeah. Being kind of babies about this.
Yeah.
And
I mean, yeah.
I I really think, it there's even a deal with the contract that Activision has with Sony and with Microsoft. So even if this deal does go through and Microsoft is able to acquire Activision, I know like their ultimate goal is going to be to put all of their games in Game Pass because Game Pass has been huge for Microsoft and a huge revenue generating um, part of their portfolio. And
Yeah.
I know their goal is going to be to put these Activision titles on there. One of the deals that, or at least within the contract, Call of Duty isn't going to be allowed to be on Game Pass for the next 3 years,
Yeah.
at least. and that's gonna, which is sad because I like it just because I'm already paying for Game Pass, and so anything that we can get more on there, so we have more content, is great for the consumer since I'm already paying for it, and I'm really annoyed with having to pay for Call of Duty every year anyway, $100 each time.
Yeah.
But so even with this, it's not going to hurt them. It's not going to hurt Sony right at the beginning, and it probably wouldn't even hurt them in the long run anyway. I mean, what if Call of Duty stinks? I mean, we had Call of Duty Vanguard last year, which was kind of a rough game, and
Yeah.
it's so. I mean, Call of Duty could go downhill in the future, and
Yeah.
wouldn't be of any use to Sony. So I don't know what they're worried about. They're looking at past numbers and thinking that's a prediction of the future.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's other games, right, with Activision Blizzard, like World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Overwatch, that I don't believe Microsoft will make exclusive. I don't think that'll happen. There's too much of a strong community backing those games across all types of platforms that if Microsoft were to make it exclusive, that's negative PR, massive negative PR for Microsoft. That's when people will really say, all right, Microsoft's a greedy company. All they want is money, money, money. But that's not the history of what it's been like for Microsoft. And personally, I do think that they're just trying. Well, I need to be careful with what I say here. A lot of what they've done has been from a consumer standpoint, consumer focused, as opposed to profit focused, right? Very much like the decision Tesla made to allow their chargers to be compatible with non-Tesla vehicles, right? Microsoft makes their games compatible with non-Xbox users. So I don't know.
Yeah, I really think that, I think Xbox has some good intentions here. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to make these completely exclusive to Xbox and PC. I'm sure they're going to have some early access to these things. There might be like some good incentives for the Xbox side because Sony has that with Activision now anyway. For some reason, they seem to get all the Call of Duty content a week to 2 weeks early, which always agitates me because I don't have a PS5 yet. Or well, probably not even going to get one. But because I don't have that, I can't get my early access to frustrations in Call of Duty yet. I have to wait 2 weeks, and I'm still frustrated.
Yeah, but they've had that deal for a while, right? So I think you're right. I think it might just swap that scenario, but who knows? We could be completely wrong. Maybe Xbox is a profitable company. I could just be a Microsoft loyalist right now, blinded, naive. Oh yeah, Microsoft, they're going to benefit the consumer. And then Microsoft's like, nope, all exclusive, Xbox only.
Yes.
Suck it, PlayStation,
Yeah, they're just in it for the money.
Yeah. I mean, they are business. They are business. So
and they're doing great. I mean, Microsoft, they're one of the top $1 trillion companies. So whatever they're doing, they seem to know what they're doing on the business side.
Yeah. I just wish they applied that knowledge of what to do on the business side to Halo Infinite.
Yes.
I wish they would do something with Halo Infinite. But that's a different story. We won't get into that. That's a can of worms.
Yeah, so much frustrations with that.
Yeah.
All right. What would you like to talk about next?
Let's see here. I want to say there was one. Oh, Rivian e-bikes. Let's talk about that.
Yes.
And then I think that might be good. Maybe we end on that.
Okay, sounds good. So Rivian may have just announced what their next product is going to be. So they're right now, Rivian's best known for their electric pickup truck. They're currently developing the R1S, which is their SUV version of it. These vehicles have been very, very successful, and the public has had great reception towards these vehicles. I mean, obviously, they're they're not without their faults. They're not perfect. However, generally they have been really good. And I know the R1S got really good reviews upon it being released this year.
Hmm.
And now they seem like they're getting into the business of selling e-bikes and getting into having that as a part of their portfolio. I think this is pretty cool. E-bikes, they're pretty interesting. People have some really, really strong end opinions of whether they either really like e-bikes or they really don't.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's really cool that Rivian's getting into it. I think more competition in the industry is better because it pushes innovation, it
For
drives
sure.
pricing down. So I'm not upset about them getting into e-bikes, and being in the electrical vehicle industry already, I think they're going to have some success here. Where I have my concerns is the industry of electric. I don't know if it's vehicles, but I don't know what you call them, but like bikes and scooters and skateboards and go-karts, you know, um, just like smaller and transportation vehicles, I guess. I worry about that because and maybe this is just my fear mongering in me. I think of the movie Wally, and
Oh,
people are just gonna get fat and they're not gonna develop muscle. They're just gonna be zooming around on electric vehicles and just they don't have to use
yeah.
muscle to go anywhere. And like for me as a kid, I grew up skating, skateboarding, biking, and going up hills. And I remember like having to push through going uphill. And if my son just has to like twist the knob, like,
It's not. Yeah.
like okay, I don't know how I feel about that. How's that going to impact his character of working hard and pushing through things? I don't know. And then, generation after generation, if this continues to progress and, our bodies might change. And yeah,
Right.
again, it's like fear mongering in me. But I guess I have that in the back of my mind of this negative impact that EVs have. Personally, I most likely will buy an electric bike for me and my wife before we buy an electric vehicle, just because it's easier entry to purchase,
Oh, for
cheaper
sure.
price. We'd probably use them a lot more often, and it's a lot more convenient, especially when we get older. As we get older, I currently have a electric go kart. I have the 9 bot Segway with the go kart attachment, and
Oh, nice.
dude, it is so fun. It is so fun. Me and my kids, we go out, we zip around on that thing, and it's so fun. And so, getting an electric bike, I see the appeal. Like I said, I most likely buy one before I buy an EV.
Mhm.
So probably within the next year or two, we're gonna have a couple of electric bikes. I
Nice.
mean, they're selling everywhere. There's a lot of competitors. So I think it's cool Rivian's getting into it. There's in the article, there's a lot of other companies that have already gotten into the market. So I
Yeah.
have nothing against it. I think it's cool.
I think it makes sense for Rivian. I mean, they're already in the electric vehicle space, and their vehicles are really geared toward your adventure outdoor.
Yeah, great
And
point.
having electric bike with that just enhances that experience.
I agree.
You can drive out to the mountains and go mountain biking with your e-bike on some pretty good trails and have a good time and not have to break a huge sweat. I mean, with e-bikes, I I have really mixed feelings about them. I think the idea is really cool, and I like the idea of making biking more accessible to everybody. However, uh, I'll share a story. My wife and I, we last year we went on the Hiawatha Trail in Montana. It's a wonderful biking trail. It's off of an old railroad that used to run through the mountain, and so
Cool.
you can bike on that trail. Anyway, pretty much the whole thing is a very slight downhill, um, very slight downhill, and so it's a pretty easy ride down the
Yeah.
whole way.
Okay.
And when we got there, we've done this a couple. We've done this 2 times. We did it about 5 years ago, and then we just did it last year. And the amount of e-bikes that we saw in comparison from 5 years ago to last year was like exponential.
Really?
Yeah, it seemed like about 1 out of every 10 people had an e-bike.
Wow.
And so, I mean, that trail is already downhill, and so you don't really have to exert that much effort, and
Yeah.
you're already and then these people are on an e-bike just cruising down without exerting any effort at all, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I mean, I like the idea, but sometimes, when I get on a bike, I wanna get some exercise. I wanna get
Yeah.
a return on my investment for working that hard.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And with an e-bike, I think sometimes it kind of takes that away and it makes it a little bit too easy. But I guess if I was wanting to work out, I wouldn't ride an e-bike. So that just might be my issue.
Yeah, I agree with you. No, I think that's where I'm coming from as well. Is I'm worried that it's just gonna make people lazy. It's gonna change the next generation of people and their behavior, and that this is only one aspect of that. But I think as the world is automated more and more, and we have more leisure, let's see, like more leisurely ways of doing things without the effort and the exercise, whether that's biking or whether that's drawing. You hear about AI, art, and things like this, right? um it worries me that society will just become lazy and dependent on technology and not self-reliant.
Yeah,
That's what I worry about. I want to make
me too.
sure that I am capable, and then I want to make sure my kids are capable.
Hmm.
And that way, if anything goes bad, you know, electricity's gone. My kids are like, oh, I can grab a regular bike and pedal to
Hmm.
the well to get water because my pump isn't working and my lights aren't working and my electric bike isn't working. It's like, I don't know. This is like all doomsday, worst case scenario stuff. This whatever.
No, but that's a good point. This this does put a strain on self-reliance. And so it's kind of a fine line that as a society we need to balance. And I know for myself, and I have I follow closely to your sentiment as well. I
Yeah,
want to make sure that me and my family are self-reliant. And so while I think these are cool, I'm a little apprehensive on
yeah,
e-bikes.
yeah, yeah. I just feel like it's too easy to become lazy.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I'm probably gonna buy one in the next year because
Yeah. I mean, I love being lazy. Anything I can do to make myself more lazy, I'm all up for that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So mixed
So,
feelings. We'll
yeah.
see.
But I think this is cool. Again, I'm really excited for Rivian, and I hope they do well. I hope that they continue to move forward and ramp up production. They don't just end up going into bankruptcy and just being the Amazon delivery truck maker.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Fingers crossed that 2024 turns into 2023 delivery for you.
yes, hopefully that comes out before anything detrimental happens.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, this has been a great episode. I think we've covered up a lot of good topics here. Definitely we have more to come. So stay tuned for more episodes as they do come through. Make sure you like and subscribe and ringling that dingling button so you don't miss any notifications as they come through. If you like this, give us a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, please send it to somebody that you dislike. That way, that way they have an opportunity to hear this
Oh, this
video
this is
as
a
well.
phenomenal closing. I love this.
So we really appreciate it. Thanks for sticking with us. And as always, stay classy.